I now kind of feel like speaking in a hushed tone to you for our final speaker. I sort of feel like I'm an extra on CSI for this next gentleman. He has been trained by the FBI, by the US Secret Service. He is an extraordinary man who is an expert on detecting deception. Would you please welcome to the stage, where is he? Steve Van Aperen. The interesting thing, he's got a very quirky personality. He begged me, please don't call me Steve Van Aspirin. He is an expert on detecting deception with government agencies, with companies, and today he is here to talk to you about who is telling the truth. I am here to let you know, honestly, this man, Steve Van Aperen, is a dead set legend. Let him go. Who is telling the truth?
Thank you, Aperen. In 1996, I was a police detective, and I was always interested in psychological profiling, what made serial killers and serial sex offenders tick. So I was fortunate enough to go over to the FBI Academy in Quantico, but the more I got to know about profiling, the more interested I became in cognitive and behavioural interviewing. I wanted to know why, after 14 years in the police, I was not all that good at detecting when people were lying to me. So what I did was I did training in polygraph and so on. Then I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could have the ability and skill sets to work out when people were lying by analysing their body language? And later on you'll find out why I have no friends left. Remember this, but actually one caution before I start. Some of the things I'm going to talk about in the next 15 minutes, don't do to your friends or family, or you're not going to have any friends or family left. If you think I'm joking, I did a training session in Queensland for a group of barristers, and I gave that warning. And about a week after the training session, I got a phone call from one of the senior partners. And she said, Steve, you remember how you said don't do this to some of these things that you teach to any of the people that you're close to? I said, yeah. She said, I suspected my husband was having an affair. I thought, right. And she said, so I did what you said. So I'm scratching my head thinking, oh, geez, what did I say? She said, I asked him a good, direct, probing question. I said, are you having an affair? Now, if you forget everything I talk about today, remember this. If you ask a question, you don't get an answer to the question, go back and ask that question again. So she did. She said, are you having an affair? He turns around and he says, why would I be having an affair? Answered a question with another question. Big problem. She said, are you having an affair? Second time he said, this is ridiculous. I'm not the sort of person that would have an affair. And she said, guess what happened? I said, what? She said, I kept probing and he confessed. I didn't know what to say. I'm glad you got something out of my training. So don't do this to your friends or family or you're not going to have any. Remember this, for every one lie you tell, you have to invent another 2 or 3 to protect yourself from the first one. Secondly, you've got to have a great memory because you've got to remember, what have I said previously that could contradict me now? Neurologically, truthful people don't go through that process. If I got everyone down on this stage and asked you what you did this morning, neurologically, you would be relying on memory for recall. So you would be able to share experiences, feelings, thoughts, colours, conversations. Why? Because you lived through them. If you didn't through sensory input, you have to make it up. What happens is we see a number of changes. Remember this, I may be able to think of a lie, but can I effectively communicate it? The other thing is, I consult my services to different police departments and homicide squads and the mega, and one of the first things I teach people is to analyse the content and structure of language. People will only tell you what they want you to know. They'll edit the information they give you. So 9 times out of 10, we listen to what they say. Now, if I was to ask Michael Jackson if he'd ever had facial surgery, he'll look at me straight in the eye and say no, when we can see. Now, often the question becomes the threatening stimulus. What I say to people is, if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right answers. A number of years ago, there was a case here, the murder of Jaden Lesky. And I was contacted in relation to that from 60 Minutes. And they said, Steve, we want you to do a polygraph test to work out whether or not Greg Dom Savage was involved in the murder. Can you ask him, this was before they found Jaden's body, can you ask him, do you know for certain where Jaden's body is? And I said, that's a bad question. What if he had an accomplice and the accomplice disposed of the body? What if he threw the body off a bridge and it's 20 kilometres down the river? He may legitimately not know where that body is. So if your question's not clear, it allows a deceptive person what I call wriggle room. And it's important never in any question to allow that to happen. Now, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we need to be aware of. I must admit, Bill Clinton and George Bush give me so much material to work with, it's not funny. When I said that people will edit the information, Bill Clinton said, whilst my answers were legally accurate, I did not volunteer information. So that tells me he's withholding information. People often lie by omission rather than commission. What they don't tell you is more important than what they do tell you. And the editing process takes place, and often, research shows this, that people won't lie to you unless they've got no other option. So what they'll do is they'll be evasive, omissive and dismissive, but they'll beat around the bush. And only when they're in that last phase that they've got no other opportunity, then they'll lie to you. Research shows us it is very difficult for the average person to lie, and lie convincingly. There will always be some telltale signs of what I call leakage or seepage. The problem is we don't look for it. The first thing I do, and I did that this morning in the green room before we started, I'll be introduced to somebody and I'll make a number of observations about their behaviour. Then I'll look for deviations from that normative behaviour. And often, 9 times out of 10, I'll show you shortly, with body language, we're not even cognizant of what we're doing. One of the things about body language is I look for conflict or contradiction between what a person is telling me and what their body language is in fact saying. And 9 times out of 10, we just listen to the content. Research shows between 48 and 53% of the time are we any good at spotting a lie. When I did my research for my first book, this is what we found. We found that most people deceive about 30 people per week, just in the average conversation during work. Imagine this. You go to work, your boss says, "Have you finished that file?" "Yeah, pretty much." That's a response not indicative of certainty. We are lied to up to 200 times each day. When I first saw that, I thought, how can that be possible? But think about this. From the time you get in your car, turn on your radio, drive to work, we've been bombarded with up to 100 commercials. I did a presentation. One of the things I look for is micro-expressions, distress signals. And I was asked to do a presentation to a group of plastic surgeons. And I thought this was really interesting. I was looking in the front row, and there were a number of women. And I thought, there's something not right with this picture. And during the break, I went up to one of the ladies and said, "Can you do me a favour?" And she said, "Sure, what's that?" I said, "Can you frown?" And she goes, "I am." Botox, absolutely no movement in her face at all. And I'll give you some examples of how expressive our faces are. The average is 7 times per hour. If you count all the time people lie to themselves about their weight, how they're feeling, and so on. We lie in 30 to 38% of all our interactions with other people. I just want a bit of a show of hands here. Hands up who think men make better lies than women. Hands right up there. Okay, hands up who think women make better lies than men. Okay, don't shoot the messenger. This is the research. Research shows men are twice as likely to hesitate mid-sentence during a deception. Research has also found that women are much more fluent with language at a younger age. And it has something to do with the cortex that joins both cerebral hemispheres of the brain, which accounts for multiple tasking. Women are very good at multiple tasking. But also they found that when women lie, their lies are much more elaborate, whereas men's lies are very basic. "Where were you last night?" My friend's place. So we need to listen to what people say. Furthermore, men pause more than 3 times every 100 words compared to women who pause only once every 50 words. So we're at a distinct disadvantage when it comes to the process of lying. Now this is really interesting. I've seen 3 variations on this study, and it comes down to what they did was they counted the number of words per day that men speak during conversations and the number of words per day that women speak. And this was really interesting. I found amazing. 3 variations, all pretty much the same percentage or ratio. On average, they said that men speak up to a maximum of 7,000 words per day, compared to women up to a maximum of 20,000 words per day. So not do women only get the last word in, they get the last 13,000 words in.